Before anyone could even settle into their seats, before the lights fully warmed the stage, the moment happened, the kind that makes people lean closer to their screens without realizing it. The judges exchanged quick glances, the audience held a confused breath, and somewhere backstage a young man from a tiny Filipino town felt his heart drop as a familiar voice cut through the air. Stop. 10 seconds. That was all he got. Or so everyone thought. Stay with this story until the end, because what followed wasn't just a performance, it was a single note that would echo around the world. And if stories of courage, second chances, and impossible dreams move you even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because this is the kind of journey that deserves to be shared. He stood frozen on that massive stage, lights blinding, palms sweating inside a borrowed jacket that felt too big for his thin frame. The jacket was black, shiny at the edges, chosen carefully to honor the man who inspired him since childhood, the king of rock and roll. Back home in the Philippines, he was just a quiet guy who sang at family gatherings, weddings, and late-night karaoke sessions where neighbors leaned out of windows to listen. There, people smiled and clapped. Here, the silence felt heavy, almost cruel. When the music stopped after only 10 seconds, it felt like the world had decided he didn't belong. The judge's voice wasn't angry, but it was firm. I don't think this is right for you. The words landed hard. The audience murmured. Cameras zoomed in, catching the flicker of embarrassment in his eyes. He nodded politely, the way he'd been taught to respect elders, even when his chest felt like it was caving in. Inside, memories rushed forward, his mother ironing clothes late at night, his father working extra shifts, the small cracked mirror where he practiced Elvis moves as a kid, pretending the broomstick was a microphone. He hadn't come this far to be remembered as someone who failed in 10 seconds. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of walking off, he took a breath. It was a quiet breath, barely noticeable, but it carried years of hope with it. He lifted his head and spoke softly, asking for just one more chance. Not a full song. Not a big explanation. Just one note. The room hesitated. The judge raised an eyebrow. The audience leaned in again, curiosity replacing doubt. Against the odds, permission was given. That single second stretched into eternity. He closed his eyes, not to hide, but to remember. He remembered singing on rainy nights when electricity went out, his voice filling the dark. He remembered being laughed at for dreaming too big. He remembered the first time he heard Elvis and felt understood without knowing why. And then he sang. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was one pure, trembling note that rose from deep inside him, rich and soulful, carrying both pain and pride. The sound didn't just fill the room, it changed it. The judge who had stopped him leaned back, stunned. The audience gasped, some hands flying to mouths, others already clapping before the note even faded. In that instant, the fear melted away, replaced by something far stronger, belief. The music returned, and this time no one stopped him. His voice shifted effortlessly, channeling the spirit of Elvis while still sounding entirely his own. Every lyric told a story of longing and resilience. His movements, once nervous, became confident. The stage that felt too big now felt like home. With every note, he wasn't just performing, he was proving that first impressions can be wrong, that talent sometimes hides behind nerves, accents, and humble beginnings. By the time the song ended, the room was on its feet. Applause thundered, cheers echoing off the walls. The same judge who had stopped him now smiled, shaking his head in disbelief. That, he said, is why we give second chances. Tears blurred the singer's vision as he bowed, overwhelmed not by fame, but by relief. He had been heard. Back home, screens lit up across neighborhoods. Families gathered around televisions and phones, shouting his name, crying with pride. Kids who once thought dreams were only for other countries saw themselves in him. One note had done more than save an audition, it had opened doors for countless others who were afraid to speak up, sing out, or try again after being told no. The story didn't end on that stage. It traveled across oceans, shared and reshared, reminding the world that greatness doesn't always arrive polished. Sometimes it stumbles, gets stopped, and asks quietly for one more chance. And sometimes, all it takes is one brave note to change everything. If this story inspired you even a little, imagine how many others need to hear it too. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this moment, because somewhere out there is another dreamer standing in silence, just waiting for their one note to be heard. Before the lights fully settled and before the audience could decide whether to clap or stay quiet, something unexpected sliced through the excitement. A sharp pause. A raised hand. A voice that carried authority and finality. Stop. 10 seconds. That was all it took for the room to shift, for hope to wobble, for a dream that had traveled thousands of miles to suddenly feel painfully small. Viewers watching at home leaned closer without realizing it, sensing that this wasn't just another audition. This was the beginning of a moment that would either disappear forever or explode into history. Stay with this story until the very end, because what happened next was more powerful than applause, louder than criticism, and proof that one note can change a life. And if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because moments like these deserve to be shared with the world. He stood there under the massive stage lights, feeling their heat press against his face like the sun at noon. His name had just been announced, his accent still echoed in the air, and his heart was racing faster than the opening beat of the song he had practiced for years. He was wearing a black jacket he bought secondhand, styled carefully to honor the legend who had inspired him since he was a child. Back home in the Philippines, he practiced in front of a cracked mirror, copying the moves, feeling like Elvis was speaking directly to him through old speakers and low-quality recordings. That music wasn't just entertainment to him. It was escape. It was comfort. It was hope. As the first notes of the song began, he felt his nerves tighten. His voice came out softer than he wanted, restrained by fear. Before he could settle into the rhythm, before he could find the place where his voice truly lived, it happened. The music cut. The judge leaned forward. Stop. The word echoed louder than the music ever did. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some looked confused, others disappointed. Cameras zoomed in on his face, catching the flicker of shock, the sting of rejection forming behind his eyes. He nodded politely, the way he had been raised to do. Respect first, always. But inside, everything collapsed at once. 10 seconds. After all the years of dreaming, all the nights singing quietly so neighbors wouldn't complain, all the sacrifices his family made, this was how it ended? He thought of his mother staying up late, ironing clothes by hand. He thought of his father working long hours, never complaining. He thought of the friends who told him he was crazy for believing a boy from a small town could stand on a global stage. The judge spoke again, explaining that it didn't feel right, that the performance wasn't working. The words weren't cruel, but they were heavy. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Many had already decided this was over. He could have walked off right then. Most people would have. But something inside him refused to accept that this was the end of his story. He took a breath. A deep, shaking breath that carried years of doubt and determination. His voice, when he spoke, was soft but steady. He asked for one more chance. Not another song. Not a restart. Just one note. A single note to show who he really was. The room froze. The judges exchanged looks. The audience leaned forward again, curiosity slowly replacing indifference. After a long pause that felt like a lifetime, permission was given. He closed his eyes. In that brief silence, memories flooded back. Singing at family parties while cousins laughed and clapped. Performing Elvis songs at local events where the sound system barely worked. Being told his voice was strange, different, not fitting the usual mold. He remembered practicing alone at night, whisper singing so he wouldn't wake anyone. He remembered promising himself that if he ever got one real chance, he wouldn't waste it. Then he sang. It wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It was one long, pure note that seemed to rise from somewhere deeper than his chest. It carried emotion, control, and a soul that couldn't be taught. The sound wrapped itself around the room, cutting through doubt and expectation like a blade through silk. Gasps rippled through the audience. One judge's eyes widened. Another leaned back in disbelief. That single note did what 10 seconds couldn't. It told the truth. The music returned, but now everything was different. His voice grew stronger, fuller, effortlessly shifting tones in a way that felt almost unreal. It wasn't an imitation. It was a tribute infused with his own identity. His movements loosened. The stage no longer felt intimidating, it felt like home. Every lyric poured out with meaning, telling a story of longing, struggle, and unshakable belief. The audience erupted before the song even ended. Some people were already on their feet, clapping, shouting. By the final note, the entire room was alive with applause. The judge who had stopped him shook his head slowly, smiling in disbelief. "That," he said, "is why we give second chances." Tears filled the singer's eyes as he bowed, overwhelmed not by fame, but by validation. He had been seen. He had been heard. Back in the Philippines, televisions glowed in small living rooms. Phones were passed from hand to hand. Families gathered, some crying openly, others cheering as if he could hear them. Children watched with wide eyes, seeing a reflection of their own dreams on that stage. Parents held back tears, realizing that talent can rise from the most humble places. Clips of the performance spread like wildfire. Social media exploded. People replayed that single note again and again, unable to believe the transformation. Comment sections filled with messages from around the world, praising not just his voice, but his courage. Strangers wrote about times they were told no, times they almost gave up, times they wished for just one more chance. The singer returned home changed, not because he was famous, but because he knew something now. Rejection wasn't the end. It was a test. He carried that lesson into every performance that followed. Every time fear crept in, he remembered those 10 seconds and the one note that followed. This story isn't just about music. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. It's about speaking up when silence feels safer. It's about understanding that sometimes the world judges too quickly, and sometimes, all it takes is one brave moment to rewrite everything. So if you're watching this and doubting your own dream, remember this story. Remember the boy who was stopped after 10 seconds and refused to disappear. Remember the power of one note. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own journey, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it, because the world is full of unheard voices waiting for their chance.